With things like increasing traffic, decreasing affordability, increasing crime, everyone moving here from everywhere all the time, so on and so forth, for good reason, Austin, Texas has become overrated, to the point where even on this channel where we love Austin, Texas, I absolutely talk about how Austin, Texas is getting worse and worse. However, what gets lost is what makes Austin, Texas attractive in the first place, and how, in my opinion now, due to all that talk, it is actually becoming underrated. Let's talk about why. Stay tuned. Hey again everybody, this is Frank with the Living in Austin group at eXp Realty. On this channel we put out new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad, so consider subscribing if you haven't already, and ring that little bell to get notified anytime we put out a new video. We also love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to the greater Austin area, so don't hesitate, keep them coming. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. So yes, in this video we are acknowledging the possibility that Austin, Texas, due to how overrated it has become, is actually now becoming underrated. So the first reason would actually be the subject of affordability. And this is interesting because it gets talked about quite a bit. I have talked about it endlessly on this channel since its conception, and for good reason. As mentioned a billion times on this channel and probably everywhere else, Austin, Texas is the most expensive city to live in the entire large state of Texas. However, what gets lost in all of that talk, in spite of its median home price within the city limits being well over $600,000 now, what gets ignored is how, at least relatively, affordable a lot of the suburbs surrounding the city are. And I do realize a lot of people want to be in the city, and so it might not apply to that specific scenario, but in our experience helping our clients, a majority of them would prefer to be close enough to the city but not stuck in the city. And so whether you're talking about places like Hutto or Kyle or Manor, Texas, or Buda, Texas, or even Leander, Round Rock, Georgetown, so on and so forth, a lot of these places are getting more expensive, yes, but many of them are still relatively affordable, at least when compared to the city of Austin, Texas. Some of them have median home prices still in the 300s, many of them still in the low to mid 400s, and then the ones that are more popular are going to be around $500,000. And so I acknowledge that is not dirt cheap, because by default of being close to Austin, Texas, it's never going to be dirt cheap. However, that does, in my opinion, get lost a lot in translation, is that this assumption that because Austin, Texas itself is so damn expensive, that anything close to it is also going to be so expensive. And that is simply not the case. Now, something else that is getting overshadowed by all the negative talk about Austin, Texas, much of which has come from myself, is the fact that it has an abundance of things to do. We got to think about it. Austin, Texas, for the longest time, and even still, is one of the hottest spots in the country for relocation. And with everything that is wrong or bad about Austin, Texas, what is getting lost in translation is that Austin, Texas is still Austin, Texas. It still has a lot of things to do that are attractive to so many people. Whether you're into museums, whether you're into art, whether you're into music or music venues, music festivals, whether you're into nature, hiking, yoga, paddleboarding, canoeing, fitness, so on and so forth, breweries, wineries, distilleries, great food. While Austin, Texas culturally is absolutely changing, and I have spoken at length about that subject, even still it is desirable. It has not necessarily lost a lot of the things that make it Austin, Texas in the first place. And with places like Round Rock, Texas having their own abundance of things to do, with places like Leander, Texas getting North Line and Leander Springs and all of these new developments, with Georgetown, Texas having its own downtown and its own lake, with Buda, Texas being the self-proclaimed outdoor capital of Texas, with San Marcos, Texas being kind of a miniature Austin in its own right. Even if you're not living in the city limits of Austin, Texas, a lot of these other towns, cities, and suburbs surrounding the city within 20 to 40 minutes of distance have their own fair share of things to do as well. Another aspect of why Austin, Texas is quite possibly becoming underrated is the fact that it still maintains a Texan culture. And let me explain. In an abundance of our videos, I do want to point out that it is absolutely changing culturally. Changing in a way where all of these people who are not from here and a lot of these companies that are not from here are flocking here, migrating here, really creating a culture that is becoming increasingly less and less Texan. And so I always make it a point to speak about that, because if you are considering relocating here from another part of the country and you want that Texas flavor, that Southern culture, yes, be warned, Austin is very quickly losing that. However, in regards to Austin, Texas, and the greater Austin area, while the city absolutely is changing, a lot of the places right outside of the city, once you leave the city limits, automatically and all of a sudden feel very Texan. While a lot of the people who reside here now are, yes, not even from here anymore, there are still an abundance of people who are. And so if you are attracted to that warmth, that Southern hospitality, in spite of Austin changing, it's not necessarily gone. And it's not going to be gone for quite a while, because while the city of Austin, yes, specifically is changing, the greater Austin area is only growing and it's still developing in a lot of places. And so in my opinion, that will take quite a bit of time before it looks like a place such as Los Angeles or San Francisco. Naturally, segueing from that is yet another aspect of how Austin, Texas is a bit underrated, and that would be a byproduct of the size of Texas. And so, no, Austin is not going to be as large as San Antonio, Houston, or Dallas by any means. It still has a bit of that small town, small city feel in spite of its massive growth in terms of population. But what I'm getting at is, with it being in Texas, it is still going to abide by those if you will, laws of the size of Texas. And what I mean by that is, if you're coming from a place like California, Oregon, Manhattan, or New York, or wherever you're coming from, a lot of those places are very smushed together, and a lot of those places have stores and neighborhoods and roads that are so old and run down and small. And so I'm not saying that's non-existent in Texas or in Austin, Texas, but for example, here your grocery stores are going to be probably the biggest grocery stores you've ever seen in your life. Here, a lot of the communities, what's considered old in the greater Austin area for a neighborhood might be the 80s or the 90s or now the 2000s, because so many homes now are new construction. So many communities, both normal or master planned, are going to be newer developments. And while I always get on Austin, Texas for its construction, a lot of that is completed. I wouldn't say all of it is completed. Some of it feels like it's taking 80 years, but a lot of these roads are brand new. They're very wide, they're very clean, they have high speed limits. And so by default of being in a state just as large as Texas, you really do get this relaxed feeling, this calm feeling. Things are so much more spread out as opposed to smushed together and kind of staticky. So if you are looking for a change of pace, if you are looking for something that could be culturally shocking to you, as it was for me when I left Austin and moved temporarily to Los Angeles, that might be the perfect fit for you, because while Austin, Texas is getting worse, yes, in so many ways, by default of being in Texas, it's still going to feel very large. It's still going to feel very relaxed. And for a lot of people, including myself, that is very attractive. Now, real quickly before moving on, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. If we've been providing any value for you, consider liking the video as it helps our channel grow. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, share our content with anybody you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. Up next, we've got the underrated subject of Austin's economy. And this is something that is very strong right now in the city of Austin. This is something that is absolutely booming. And to be honest, because on this channel we gotta keep it consistent and brutally honest, is absolutely a reason why Austin, Texas is changing in many cases for the worse. In the ways I've talked about in the past of how Austin might be becoming a bit like California, and how it's crime and things are changing, and how a lot of people are feeling like it is becoming less and less and less authentic and Texan. Well, that is a byproduct of all of these tech companies moving here, and how the economy is absolutely doing fabulously well right now. All of the clients, or at least the majority of the clients we've helped close on their homes in the greater Austin area, more often than not, are because of an accepted job offer or a future job opportunity. Whether it's working from home post-pandemic, whether it's working in the tech hub of North Austin near the Domain, or whether it's working out of corporate headquarters in downtown Austin. Austin is a place that so many people are coming to simply because of work. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people just need a change and they're moving for the sake of making that change. But in our experience, most of it, and of course, ultimately why Austin is such a hotspot nationally for relocation all the time, is because of the jobs here, the opportunity here, and the overall economy. Now lastly, let's get a little bit lighthearted with it and talk about how something that is underrated, not just about Austin, Texas, but the state of Texas itself, are the other seasons. And by that, I mean the seasons other than summertime. So I have talked probably a billion times about the heat here in Austin, Texas, and how pretty much from May through September, you're going to get plenty of triple-digit weather, and how the air here, because of its density and humidity, not quite to Houston or Florida's level, but obviously not as dry as Phoenix or, say, Pasadena, is going to make the air here feel like you're opening an oven when you're baking cookies. And all of that is absolutely true. You're watering your grass more, you're paying more for AC. There's things that come with the heat aside from just having to endure it. You know, the leather in your car might crack, your steering wheel will burn your hands, and so all of that stuff is true. But what gets lost in all the talk of the heat here is that pretty much from October through, say, April, it's very nice here. I mean, we did have that one unprecedented blizzard, that one snowstorm that was the first of its kind since the 1960s. But otherwise, if you're looking, first of all, to escape brutal winters, come here. But even if that's not necessarily a huge issue for you, from the months of October probably through April, you get a lot of 80s at highest, and then it's plenty of the 70s, plenty of the 60s, and then in the winter, you're gonna have probably mid to high 30s through the low to mid 50s, and that's very nice. I'm someone who perspires the moment it gets above 80, so don't get me wrong. I definitely wish it were cooler here more often than not, but for what it's worth, the weather here, once you can make it through the brutal summers, is quite desirable. And then you put that hand in hand with what the city of Austin has to offer with all of its outdoorsy amenities and things to do, then you've got a match made in heaven for living in a city that has such an active lifestyle and totes so many things to do in Zilker Park or Lake Austin, Lady Bird Lake, Lake Travis, so on and so forth. So there you have it. Is the crime in Austin, Texas increasing dramatically? Absolutely. Is the traffic here worse than it's ever been and seemingly getting worse by the day? Absolutely. Is Austin, Texas becoming less Austin-y, less Texan in a lot of ways? Sure it is. Is the affordability going, I was going to say through the roof, is the decreasing affordability going through the roof? Absolutely. It is becoming so much more expensive to live here in plenty of regards, not just the housing market. All of that is true. However, does that make Austin, Texas irredeemable? In my opinion, no. And by a byproduct of all of those things being very common talking points, and for good reason, is Austin, Texas all of a sudden going from very desirable to then super overrated to now potentially underrated? Personally speaking, it's not just my bias because I've listed the reasons. I think it is becoming a bit underrated. Austin, Texas is still a great place to live. Austin, Texas is still a very desirable place to live. And Austin, Texas ultimately has a lot to offer for all different kinds of people. We didn't even touch on the school districts, so I'll just say that much. And so yes, for many reasons, it might not be right for you. But if it is, that is what we're here for, helping people just like you relocate to the greater Austin area, making that move as smooth as possible and finding that perfect spot. But again, the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. And as mentioned, this channel, we talk about the good and bad of Austin, Texas. So consider subscribing if you haven't already. Ring the bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if we've been providing any value for you. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.